everybody, Larry Vela here, and I'm here with Stable Abe.
Hi.
And we are back with more Rune Wars coverage. So this is the Rune Wars miniature game. This is from Fantasy Flight Games. And we've done an unboxing of this entire game and kind of showed you the basic components. Today, we want to go through the units. And we have all the miniatures assembled. We have them on their trays. And we're going to go through each of the units, show you the miniatures, and kind of give you the basics of the unit. We're going to show you its card and
its command tool.
And
of course the models themselves.
So let's get going. We have our two factions. What are our two factions?
We've got the Decan Lords or Dequan Lords.
It's D-A-Q-A-N, and we're from Texas, so we have no idea how that's pronounced.
Yep, and then we've got the forces of Wyquar or Wequar or Waquar, the Undying.
The Undying.
So you got your humans and you got your undead.
All right, so we're going to take this out of the way. And let's bring in our first unit here. We're going to start off with our basic units here. What we have here is a unit of, set these up right here. These are
generic spearmen.
Generic spearmen. You get 16 of them in the box. As you can see, we have them. They're 4 to a base. We have them on 4 different bases. They're on those really cool modular Rune Wars movement trays, so they all interlock and you can change the way and you know. They actually are pretty stable. Yeah,
they're wonderful. And all infantry in this game, at least all infantry that are released so far, and I assume this is going to hold true for the future, you put 4 on a tray.
Yes, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So really basics here. We have just a totally basic unit here. We have our card right here. We have their defense value, how many hit points they can take before you lose individual models. As you would expect, these are kind of your baseline grunts, 1 and 1. They have a special ability. So if they get the
if they get 2 surges in a combat roll, they can get an inspiration token, which is a boon. So in Rune Wars, every unit can have boons or banes on them. They're tokens you get that you can spend. Boons give you a bonus.
Right.
Banes give you a disadvantage. So you'll see that throughout this. These guys are really good at, you know, yay, we're humans, we did something good.
And we have spears.
Yeah.
And on the bottom of the card, you get when they're attacking how many dice they roll. So these guys, when they're attacking, they roll a red and a blue die.
Yep.
Over here on the command tool, we have your actions over on the left. We have your modifiers over on the right, and you'll note that they're color-coded. So how it works is that you can use the modifiers affect actions of the same color. So if I, for instance, so the way you use your command tool is you're going to set whatever your action is for the turn. So as an example, I'm going to go this guy right here. I'm going to say that I'm going to move forward 2, and because that's a blue icon, my modifier could be any of the blue things on this side. So I could go over here and increase the unit's defense value by 1, which would make it a 2. Or they could do a slight turn, which would slow them down. They can move. They can charge. They can do a sharp turn, which will slow them down by 2. And there's a whole bunch of different modifiers. If I chose green, any of the green actions over here, I could use any of the green modifiers, and red to red and vice versa. So, Abe, let's talk a little bit about what all these weird numbers and things actually mean. Let's start off with the actual actions.
The actual actions, yeah, absolutely. So there's different actions. You've got anything that's kind of this arrow action, and the actions aren't necessarily tied to a specific color always, because there's like, in this case, you can see there's a yellow arrow and a blue arrow as well. Arrow is move.
Yes.
And at its heart, it lets you move straight forward. There's a number on it, not the white number, but a little number within the actual icon. It'll let you move forward one of these movement sticks value. So if you have a 3 straight forward, you get to move this 3 straight forward.
Right.
Then you've also got your attack actions, which are going to be either cross swords or a little bow for a ranged attack. That lets you make an attack. There's only 2 ways you can make attacks in this game, and that's if you actually have the attack, if you do the attack action, or if you do a move modified by a charge. Sure. Charge lets you attack at the end of that move. Next, you've got the shift icon, the shift action. That lets you move in any direction, straight forward, back, or sideways. That number, again, just like with movement. So in this case,
you could do a short one distance move to the side or back.
To the side or back, yeah. These little 4 squares, that's reform. That lets you just face any direction you want to face. So that's how you can break the static, you know, we have to follow these these exact pathways, basically.
Exactly. When you do that, you basically find the center point of the unit, and then you can rotate by any amount to any facing you want to.
And then you've got this little horn that's blowing, and that's the rally action. That lets you kind of replenish some of your reserves, get rid of some bad things that have happened.
Exactly. If you have a bunch of
Banes and stuff.
Banes and negative tokens on you, you can use the rally action and pull all those tokens off your unit.
Right. One other thing I think is really cool is this is color blind friendly. Fantasy Flight has very helpfully put little letters corresponding to the colors: green, G, B, yellow, Y, and R on the bottom, so that if there's any kind of debate, you can say, nope, that's definitely green.
That is nice.
I enjoy that.
Now let's talk a little bit about the initiative numbers.
Yeah.
Because that's also interesting.
So these numbers up top are the white ones. If you can see those are the initiative that this action is resolved at. So during the beginning of each turn, basically, much like in a game, much like in X-Wing or also in Armada, the players secretly are going to set up their tokens, and then you resolve it from the lowest initiative going up.
Right. So initiative 1 is the fastest.
Right. You definitely want to go first. And so you can see some of these are actually going to be the same action, but just at different initiatives and different colors. So for instance, this unit has a yellow attack at 3.
At initiative 3.
Which is a pretty quick attack, but they don't have any bonuses, modifiers they can add to that.
Correct.
Or they can take a slower, kind of heavier attack at initiative 7, but then they can use this red modifier over here to make their attack more powerful.
Yes.
Of course, the downside of that is that if they get attacked first and lose a lot of models, they're going to be at a disadvantage.
But you can see that there's already kind of, a lot of cool things.
Right.
And movement, as an example, same thing. So on movement, you can see that as you're moving slower, so a forward move of 2 is happening at a faster initiative. So initiative 4, initiative 5. If you want to move really fast, you're doing it way back at initiative 8. But also all of these huge modifiers for turning and moving your unit around, you can't do that with the really fast. So if you're going to move forward, you're going straight ahead.
And this is basically how they handle like in old Warhammer Fantasy or a lot of other games, like a march movement. Your faster blue maneuvering is going to be what you're doing when you're fighting around, you're maneuvering right around, trying to get in position to a charge or right in the battle. Whereas these slower, longer moves are, when you're trying to get up to the battle kind of thing, when you're out of position and you just want to run forward straight.
Modifiers?
Yeah, so you got a couple of modifiers. Not all of them are on here, but most of them are. So we've got the turn modifiers. These allow you to do a turn. So instead of going with your straightforward, you get to use either the bank or the hard turn templates. So that's how you turn in the game, and they're going to slow you down. So for instance, if you have this 3 forward, you would, instead of doing a 3 bank, you would do a 2 bank or a 1 turn. These ones that have the charge burst at the end, those are your charge actions. So you can either charge ahead at full speed or do a slight turn and charge, and that lets you move and then attack at the end of your move. I think that's also might be that's one of the few ways you can actually get into combat without taking penalties.
And these spearmen have shields, which is definitely shown on their modifiers, because they do have they have a green and a blue, so they have 2 different. So on the vast majority of actions that they're taking, if they want to, they can choose a modifier that will increase the unit's defense.
Right. And that means it's gonna take twice as many hits to kill a model when you're doing this for these guys, because they add +1. So this is a great marching up under archer fire, or I'm about to get charged, let's brace for impact modifier.
Right.
They've got this attack modifier here, which basically gives them a free hit whenever they're doing that red attack thing.
Yes.
And then this little kind of Celtic cross symbol is
the activate your special
ability, right?
And some units have special rules.
And some units will have the ability to get special rules via upgrades.
Yeah.
So these guys don't actually have a action at the moment, but there are upgrades that they can be given that allow them to take actions.
Right.
And then there are a few other modifiers we'll see as we go along, but those are kind of the basis of the modifiers. You got your movement modifiers, your defense modifiers, your attack modifiers.
And that is spearmen.
That is spearmen.
So we're going to push these guys back, and now we're going to show you the basic unit, the equivalent for the undead. You want to grab that tray over here?
Yep. And most of these models, at least for the infantry, are going to come with 4 different types of models, so I really like that. There's 4 different poses or equipment types.
Yeah, we've assembled them and mixed them all per base, and it does actually give you a pretty good appearance. So we have you get a unit of 16 reanimates, and now that you kind of know the basics of what the command tool does, we can look at it here. So in general, compared to the humans, the first thing you're going to notice is that these guys are a little slower. They have higher initiative values. Like there's no the fastest these guys can do anything is at initiative 4. So they have 4s up through 5s. Whereas the spearmen had some 3s.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense. They're alive.
They're good.
And
they also have fewer options in general.
Yes. So they have they can move forward 2 or 3. They can rally. They can reform. They can shift, and they have one way of attacking at initiative 4. On their modifiers, a good amount of movement modifiers.
Yeah.
So all the basic stuff, and then if they have one way of increasing their defense, and they can also have an attack modifier that has a different type of die roll that they can turn into.
Right. And I think it's interesting just quickly looking at these 2 side to side. You can already see some of the interesting strategies. Like these guys have their attack at 4. So if you're the spearman player, you have to decide, do you want to attack before them at 3 and take a weaker attack, or do you want to attack after them at 7 and take a stronger attack?
Right.
So there's some pretty interesting interplays there.
And on their card, we're going to start to see some of the hallmarks of the Undead faction, which is they have a regenerate power, which is pretty cool. So at the end of the activation phase, if there's any empty slots in your tray, so if you guys have been killed as an example, you're going to place up to X amount of new figures in your tray equal to a particular type of magic. And there's I'll let you talk about kind of how those magic tokens work.
Right. So there's tokens that you flip at the beginning of the game, or at the beginning of every turn as well, and you flip 5 of them, they look like this, and they've got 2 sides. And those runes on the side of them are how much of each type of magic is active that turn. So there's unstable magic, stable magic, and then wild magic. So that green is the one that corresponds with them. So when they activate this ability at the end of their turn, basically for each green face-up token in that out of those 5 token pools, they get a model back just for free.
Right. So, which is cool because also that pool is re-rolled at the start of every turn, so there's going to be these kind of ebbs and flows where if you're, say the undead guy, you're going to be like, oh, this is a turn where, the type of magic I need is really strong now, so I know I'm going to have to do, if I'm going to try that ability, this is the time to do it. Whereas they might have several turns in a row where maybe their power to come back is really weak.
Right. And the maximum, at least without any kind of modifiers, the maximum you get naturally is going to be 3 of those wild magic. So you'll get up to 3 models back a turn from that. So you're not going to see like 8 models coming back in one turn just off of their natural ability at least.
So it's basically 0 to 3.
0 to 3, yeah.
A turn. They also have, all of the undead units have this ability called Steadfast Doubt, which means that as you fight, units become subject to morale checks, and there's a deck of basically morale cards that have different types of very negative effects on you.
Right.
And this special ability, we won't go too far into it. Basically, it makes them much more resilient to the effects of morale.
Yeah.
So it's going to be harder for them to have negative effects as opposed to other armies.
Which makes sense.
Which totally makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Other than that, though, they're pretty. I think they're a pretty interesting match for the base experiment. You can see a lot of similarities.
Yep. They're excellent counterparts. Okay, now we're going to go take a look at the elite units that come in the box. So over here, switching back to the Decon, and we have Oathsworn Cavalry. So now we have a unit. It's Cavalry. Obviously, as you can say, they're on a different type of base. These guys are larger models, and they're on the 2 per movement tray, as opposed to the 4 that the small guys had. And I'm going to guess that these guys being capped, they're probably going to be faster, possibly both in initiative and in physical speed as well. So Abe, let's take a look at the command tool. So what are we seeing here on these guys?
So they're not, interestingly enough, they're not just faster, they're also slower in movement. They're a lot more, they've got a 1, 2, 3, and 4 movement. So if you notice that back on the Spearmen, they only had a 2 and a 3. There was no 1 movement.
Right.
So they've got the full range of movement, basically. And again, yeah, they do have actually 3 at speed 3. So they're pretty quick at moving or attacking. Excuse me. They've also got that that rally and the reform ability, but they don't have the shift ability. So
because they're horses.
They're horses. They can go forward. They can't just kind of sidestep as easily or move backwards.
Okay. They can turn though.
They can turn, absolutely. They can kind of wheel, do their turn. And then they've got, actually just like the Spearmen, they've got a 3 that's a weak attack and a 7 that's a strong attack.
Okay.
Then on their modifiers...
A lot of blue modifiers.
A lot of blue modifiers. So they can turn... they can't do a sharp turn either, though. They can only do a nice wheel.
Okay.
Or the light wheel.
Right.
And then they can charge or charge turn a little bit. So they're a very straight ahead. Like I think it's interesting because you could just look at the wheel and be like, "Oh, this unit's gonna move forward." Like,
sure,
it's not gonna do crazy maneuvers necessarily, which is interesting. But they're kind of a heavy cavalry unit, not a light cavalry.
Oh, wait a minute. Here's an interesting concept though. They have a modifier that is a 2 forward.
Right. So they can actually do a 6 move technically.
Okay, so they can actually, if they want to, and it's going to be straight out. There's no, for just straight line motion, they can do really, really long moves.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. Their special ability, they can also only do on blue rather than on white. Whenever something is on white, on the modifier dial, white means that that's the universal match. Right. So you can use it all the time instead of only on a particular color.
Right. So they can only do their special ability on a blue, so when they're moving, but they can do their defense on any time.
Yeah, at any time.
So when they're attacking, they can choose to defend or to...
their attack is pretty good. They're rolling 3 dice. They got 2 red and a blue.
And then they also have a pretty good defense. They've got a 2 defense, so that's twice as much as the infantry.
Right.
Which they can buff up to 3.
Yep, which is really nice.
Which is really nice. And then they also have a special ability called Impact. So basically when they charge, they're going to cause some panic in the enemy, which is going to enhance the morale checks that the enemy has to take.
Okay.
So that's going to be a fast shock unit, obviously.
Yep, clearly, and definitely a unit that, compared to the other guys, is going to be able to. I mean, these guys can get around the battlefield.
These guys can get around the battlefield, but I think it's really interesting. Like most fantasy flight games, miniature games that we've seen, positioning is really important with these guys. If you don't position them properly at the beginning of the game, they're either going to waste several turns and not get into it, or they're just not going to be useful at all. They're going to go wander off into the middle of nowhere because they have limited turning.
Exactly. With them not being able to do the big 90-degree turn, it's going to really... And even if they do decide to do the big super fast movement, it's purely in the straight line.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that is Oathsworn Cavalry. We're going to put them back. Now let's take a look at the elite unit from the Undead.
So these are our archers, the reanimate archers, and they're really the only archer unit you get in this set.
We get 8 of them. And let's take a look at what we got here. Let's take a look at the command tool first.
Yeah, so again, kind of limited a little bit slower. They're going to have a 2 and a 3 forward movement. They're going to have your standard reform. They're actually interesting in that they have a 1 or a 2 shift.
Wow, a 2 shift is really interesting.
So they can do a pretty big sidestep. Or I would assume because they're archers, they're going to be, they can back up.
Right.
They can just, I won't show you exactly, but yeah, they can.
Yeah,
they can just go straight backwards too, if they want.
Which is going to be really handy.
Which is really handy, yeah.
For our people who don't want to get into assault.
Then they've got a ranged attack, and they can actually make a close combat attack if the enemy gets to them. Though you'll notice that they have different stats for those, so their close combat attack's not very good.
No. As it should be.
As it should be. And then for modifiers, they've just got a... They can't charge at all.
Right.
They're
archers. That is interesting. You're right.
They're archers, so they can go a little bit to the side or a lot to the side. But they're a pretty maneuverable unit for all that.
Yeah.
Which is beneficial for archers because
they're not a fast unit.
No.
But they're able to kind of move around,
skirmish around, be where they would need to be.
Yeah, they'll be able to sidestep and have another unit come in and behind.
This is actually one of the few units that has a rally as a modifier, not a command.
Oh, that is interesting.
So they can maneuver and rally at the same time. And then they get this
the special
attack bonus, and then they get the command.
Okay, and then looking at their cards, move this guy up.
Right.
So same thing, steadfast as all of the undead units have. So they're more resilient to morale. On their attack, as we can see here, we have a their ranged attack is a red and a blue, identical to say the standard attack that we've seen from the spearmen and the reanimates. But their close combat attack, however, is just 1 red.
Just 1 red, yeah.
Because that's not what they're made for.
And they also don't get to come back to life or anything. These guys are a little harder to bring back.
Right.
But they do have an ability that when they get 2 of the shock lightning bolt symbols,
when they're attacking with their arrows.
With their arrows, yeah. They automatically do a blight token to the enemy. Now, blight tokens are a bane that you can remove that you can spend to hurt the enemy. to actually remove a dice when they're attacking.
Oh, very nice.
And they can get free blight or free shock things, lightning bolts, to get blight tokens by using that ability.
Right.
So they can put out a pretty powerful attack that not only hurts the enemy but hinders them later on.
That is very cool. And that is reanimate archers. We're gonna get these guys out of the way. And now let's take a look at some of the big beasties. So each unit has. So we're going to start off with the Decon Lords.
So there are 3 classifications of units in the game. There's infantry, cavalry, and siege. We've obviously already seen infantry and cavalry. These are what we call siege units. You might also call them monsters.
These are the big scary guy who is. These are the stars of the box art.
Yeah.
So the big scary monsters that are on the box art, and you can see it's a big, huge, crazy dude. He's got 4 arms, huge swords. He's made of stone.
He's supposed to hug you.
The rune golems are misunderstood.
No.
So this is a rune golem, and really quick before we talk about his command tool, because the tool is actually this is a really different one than we've seen. But these guys are tough. So he has a defense of 4 and can take 2 wounds base.
Right.
When he's in combat, they roll 2 red dice. And let's talk about the tool, and then we'll go back to the special abilities because they all kind of tie together. So what do we have here on the command tool?
So first off, I just do want to mention, because it may not be clear from how it's being displayed here, these guys can actually be fielded in units. They may seem a little weak. Sometimes it's just an individual model, but you can't take a whole unit of them.
That's true.
So don't just think that these are just lone monsters wandering around.
Right.
So on his first we've got his kind of action dial. So he's got just a slow little 2 forward. He's not very fast. And at 8 initiative.
And 8 initiative. So their default move is both slow and very lumbering.
Right. Then his other move, it's kind of hard to see, but this is actually the
it's one of the types of magic.
It's one of the types of magic. So basically he moves as fast as there are these shown as this type of magic, the unchanneled or like
and at initiative 4.
At initiative 4.
So what's going to happen is if you have a turn where similar to if you have a good turn on the undead side and the right type of magic comes up, you could be like, wow, this is the turn where I'm going to get a bunch of my guys back.
Right.
With a different type of magic, there could be a turn where a bunch of those tokens come up, and then all of a sudden these guys become powered by the winds of magic, and they suddenly can move forward really fast and at initiative 4 instead of at initiative 8. So they can pull the magic into themselves and really get moving.
Right, because they're like engraved with magical runes and they feed off of that.
Right.
And this guy can go up to speed 4. So that's really a cool ability. He's also got the little shift, so he can kind of reposition himself a little bit. They've got a red, so this is for their special ability, which is either their attack.
And that is at initiative 3 too, so that happens pretty early, which we're going to find out is interesting.
And then he can also do his attack.
Okay.
And then for the modifiers, he's got a charge, just a straightforward charge. So this guy can't actually turn at all. He has no ability to turn.
Right, he has to stop and do the...
And do the thing, yeah. So in a lot of ways, you want him to be charged. You put him in the way of something. He's a rock. He rolls forward. I'll get to this one in just a second. So then he's also got a reform and a rally. So he can actually reform with any command.
Sure.
Which is interesting. I'd have to double check to see if that takes place before or after he does his move.
I believe it's the same. Oh yeah, that's a.
I'm not 100% sure, but if he can actually change before every move, that makes him really maneuverable. He's got the rally, and then this is his bonus to defense. So that's equal to the number of these runes that are active, which I believe there can be up to 2 of those on the table at the time. So he could actually go up from having a 4 to a 6 defense,
which is super really hard for him to be wounded.
So he's pretty hard to be wounded if he has that up.
And then let's talk about his special ability, because that's the other kind of really weird part. So if he sets his red ability here, then he can run his special initiative. I mean his special ability, which goes off really high. I mean really fast.
It's really fast.
At initiative 3, and at initiative 3 that happens.
So each enemy unit engaged with you with this model or this unit receives a stun token, or receives stun tokens equal to this rune. So either between 1 or 2 stun tokens. So it can be stunned. So it can be stunned pretty easily, and stun makes you actually sacrifice your bonus ability and stuff. It's another bane. Then he also has the brutal special rule. So threat is a modifier. You modify your damage die. So if you do normally 1 hit, you modify that hit on the dice by your threat value. Normally that's the number of bases you have in contact with the enemy.
Right.
So this guy is just a modifier of 1, but some people would have like a big unit of spearmen might have 2 or 3 modifier. Right. He gets to increase his threat whenever he's attacking by the number of these active runes.
Right.
So just a lone model of this can actually go up to threat 3.
So what we end up with here is a really weird model. So this guy is, by default, he's really slow. He's really lumbering. He attacks slowly. He has average numbers of dice.
Yeah.
But based on the winds of magic, if a certain type of if certain type of winds come up, he can be used to suddenly go really fast. So he can really increase his maneuverability. With another type of wind, if it's coming up a lot, he can use that to stun all the people around him, and then take advantage of them and actually increase his damage as well.
Right. So he's kind of a random unit, which some people may not like, but he can be really great because, I mean, remember, you can do an attack and this defense modifier, and if you've got 2 of these tokens up here, that's what you want to do, because suddenly he's, greatly increasing both his defense and his offensive capabilities.
Yep.
But it's a little random, so that'll be up to you to decide how you want to use them.
That's the Rune Golem. Let's take a look at the Carrion Lancer.
Right. So this is
the big scary worm with a skeleton on top.
Which is a really cool model.
Which will show you.
Probably
it is totally, the
iconic model.
I think this is the coolest model. It's a big, scary, giant worm. It's got big, nasty teeth, and it's got a skeleton on top of it with a lance.
Yeah.
And as Abe has pointed out, when you get 1 in the box set, but you can actually buy whole units of these.
You can buy whole units. They can get up to 6 models of these in a unit.
Which is really scary.
Which is scary. Or you can even have your infantry can get 1 inside of them as an upgrade as well.
Cool. Basics, 3 defense, 3 life. These guys hit pretty hard.
Yep.
2 blue and 1 red. And then let's take a look at this, because the action tool for this model is full. There's not a blank space on it. So he can do a whole bunch of stuff. So let's start off with movement over here. We have 2, a 3, and a 4 going forward, which is pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, also like the Cavalry, there's a modifier of 3, but it's yellow, so he can't use it with.
He can't use it with both. So I would look at this guy really as being a monstrous cavalry unit in a lot of ways. He's not a slow golem. He's a monstrous cavalry, so he can go pretty fast. He can do his shift because they're kind of all creepy and crawly.
Yep. Shift 1.
He can do his turn. He's got an attack. He's got a yellow rally, and then he's got a yellow special ability.
His initiative overall, it's not bad.
It's not bad. No,
it's not bad. Let's look at the modifiers really quickly.
Yeah. 2 different defense ones. Yeah.
2 different defense ones. His basic turns. He's got 2 of the different modifiers that can that can help him in combat.
So this gives him a free hit. This gives him a free panic when he attacks.
Right. So he can be basically like extra scary and cause the enemy to probably suffer worse route tests, morale tests, or he can just do extra damage.
Right.
Which is really cool. And then he has another modifier to go forward 3.
Right.
So he could rally and go forward 3, or use his special ability and go forward 3, which is pretty interesting. So what are those special abilities?
So he's got an actual attack bonus. So here's the thing: for every of these lightning bolts, he adds. That's the one I'm not certain about. He adds a skull.
If the defender has a blight token, and remember that you can get blight tokens if, as an example, you've been shot by archers, because they hand out blight tokens. So
let me check. Really, that's the one I'm not certain.
That's pretty interesting.
And then his other ability is when he uses his special ability, he actually
choose 1 unengaged enemy unit, a range 1 through 5, and in line of sight, and that unit receives a blight. Okay, so he also hands out blight tokens. So you can see there's going to be self-reinforcing loops here. He's also steadfast, which is as they all have. So he has modifiers to protect him from being affected by negative morale as much, and that is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool, yeah. So he can add bonus damage. Mortal Strike is what that means. So I think that shows up on some of the dice. But a Mortal Strike is for each one of those Mortal Strike abilities spent, the defender suffers 1 wound regardless of their defense token.
Oh, so it just passes straight through.
Right, and it's only on the white dice. So normally heroes get to use those white dice, Most of these guys don't, but basically for every lightning bolt he rolls, instead of doing the normal lightning bolt thing, if they have a blight token, he can just kill a model basically, or do a wound straight to a model, which makes this guy as a really great counter to the Rune Golem, because he can just bypass that 4 defense.
That's true.
With his ability.
Or up to 6 defense.
Or
and
6
just,
defense,
and just go straight past it. So there's our Carrion Lancer.
There's a Carrion Lancer.
In a nutshell. Put him away. And we are now to the heroes.
These are the complicated ones.
So each faction has a default hero that's kind of a general. I have no doubt that there's going to be more of these guys coming soon. So here for the Decon, we have Kari Wraithstalker.
You think she fights the undead?
I think she fights the undead.
I think she fights the undead.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So these are the heroes. They all kind of come the same way, which is that they fill up a whole base. They have this cool kind of scenic thing, and then the model fits into it, but actually they can take that off right there. They come off.
Yep.
So you can see them. She's actually a pretty nice miniature.
Pretty cool model. She can fight in combat, she can shoot, and remember with the right upgrade, she could actually go into a unit. So rather than having running out on her own like she is now, you could also put her in a unit of spearmen or something.
So let's look at some really basics of her first of all. She has defense 3 and can take 4 wounds, which is pretty good.
Yep.
4 life. She has a white and a blue die for her ranged attack, and the same thing for her hand-to-hand attack.
Remember, those white dice are 12-sided dice, and they're the only ones that got that mortal strike. So she can roll up and just plow through your defenses, your armor, whatever.
We haven't shown them to you yet, but
yeah.
It is an FFG game, so as you can tell,
special dice.
The special dice, 3 different kinds: blue ones, red ones, and white ones. I'm sure where have we seen that before?
Yeah.
Okay, and the command tool. So let's see what she can do. Well, first of all, being a hero of the Decon faction, she's really fast.
Yep.
So look at the initiative numbers. She has multiple initiative 2s, 3s. For the slowest she goes is at initiative 5.
Yeah.
So she's really fast. So your heroes are going to be jumping out and doing all their cool stuff first because they're heroes. We have movement options, a 2 and a 3. We have shift, reform, her special ability, and she can shoot.
But she's to a green, not a red, which is interesting and important to note.
Wow, she can fire arrows at initiative 2.
Initiative 2, yeah.
That's nice.
What's cool about her, I think, is that she's got the white rally, and then she's got pretty much every modifier that you would want. She's got a quick turn, normal, bank. She's got charge and charge. So she's got a green defense, which means she can shoot and defend at the same time.
Oh, that is interesting.
Which is really cool. So she can kind of stand back behind your lines and shoot very effectively and pick units off. Then when she gets in combat, she's got 2 different modifiers for her attack.
Right.
And that's the lightning bolt, which we've seen before, and then this number here is like their accuracy. You use that to target upgrades in other units. So she actually is one of the few things that can get in there and guarantee that she's gonna fight, an enemy standard bearer,
or someone important,
or a character in an enemy unit. So that's her command dial.
So let's look at her special abilities and actions.
Right. So for every lightning bolt she gets when she's attacking, only in combat, melee. Okay. Excuse me. She can choose another enemy unit at range 1 to 5. So again, this is a Fantasy Fight game. I've got a 1 to 5 range straight. But that's pretty far, yeah. That enemy suffers 2 damage per lightning she does. So she gets in there, she can just kind of stab up your unit and shoot another unit, basically.
That's pretty cool.
So she does everything. She's also got an ability called Brutal. While she's attacking, her threat is increased by 1.
So she's doing more damage.
Yeah, so she's doubling anything that she gets in the dice instead of just rolling dice, which actually makes her useful.
And then there's her precise 1. When re-rolling dice during an attack, you're treated as having 1 additional full rank of trays.
Right. So for every rank of trays, you can choose to re-roll all of your any of your dice. Nice. So basically, she can re-roll her dice once per attack. Then each commander also has a special ability, kind of their general ability on the back.
Okay. And hers.
So hers is called Amhaline Allies. It doesn't have any effect right now, because it makes her army can include one non-unique infantry unit from the Latari elves.
So those are kind of the classic Tolkien-y wood elf equivalent.
Right.
They're one of the future factions that is in the they're in the lore guide in this book. So the Runewars box set comes with 2. You have your humans, the Dakar, and then you have your undead. But they do mention that there's 2 others, and these elves are one of them. So she can take a unit of them and
in
have
her army.
In her army,
which is actually
cool.
really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really
great
cool.
ability.
All right, and last but not least, we have the big bad guy himself. I will let you pronounce his name.
So you got him here. He normally comes on the same base.
Yep, it's the exact same base, but we'll show him off.
It's a beautiful model.
Yeah, he's really cool. He's got these.
And we'll call this guy Ardus Ix'Erebus.
He's got his double axes to the side and giant antlers.
Giant, yeah. He reminds me of, if anyone's ever read that, the Prydain Chronicles, there's the Horned King is the bad guy in that, and he goes around with he's kind of this undead figure with a giant horned helmet.
So, Ardus Ix'Erebus, and 2 white dice.
Yep.
3 defense, 4, so he's going to last a long time.
Last long time. That's the best close combat attack in the game so far.
Yes, the 2 white.
2 white is pretty much the best you can get.
Yep.
So this guy, I mean, theoretically, he could one-shot a Rune Golem. If he rolls 2 mortal strikes,
Right.
he'll just kill the Rune Golem right then. So, pretty crazy, in my opinion. On his command dial, it's going to be pretty similar to Kari Wraithstalker.
He has slightly less. He has the same. He has the same full dial of modifiers. He has 1 less action.
Right, because he can't shoot. So he's got a quick attack. He's got a yellow special action. He's got the 2 and 3 movement, the reform, and the shift.
And he's just as fast as Kari is. All of his actions are between initiatives 2 and 5.
Right.
Which means even more compared, because that was a standout for her against the humans, which were kind of average speed, but because the undead army is normally really slow, he's really, really fast compared to them.
We've got same kind of movement options. He's got the bank, the turn, the charge, the charge bank. He's got a white defense, so he can add +1 to his defense for any of the
all
actions.
time.
Yeah.
Wow. So he's a 4 defense all the time if he wants to be.
Yep. He's got the white rally, so he could rally with anything, and then he's got, again, he can add either a hit to his attack, or he could add a lightning bolt to his attack.
Right, to be doing extra damage / special abilities.
Yep. So that's his command dial. Then when we get to his card,
right there.
He's got an ability in combat that his attack is treated as having the
lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt abilities of any of his allies that are at range.
Oh wow.
And that's including both their attack and their damage at range 1 to 3. So basically, if he's fighting near
the archers,
he can give his enemy blight tokens.
Right.
Or if he's fighting near the Carrion Lancers, he can just add more straight up kills.
Wow.
And he can automatically guarantee that he's going to get 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has this ability here, and he has brutal, just like Kari did, that increases his threat value.
So there's going to be some, really mean combos. This is a guy who needs to be. Kari has the ability to fight independently in a way.
Yeah.
But this guy really wants to be surrounded by a variety of units in his army.
Absolutely, but I mean, if he's fighting say a Rune Golem, the toughest thing in the other army, that has a blight token on it, he can just, and these guys are nearby, he can guarantee just kill it.
Wow.
Without even having to worry about the dice. So that's pretty brutal right there. Literally, because that's his ability, Brutal 1. Gets that thing. He's also got Steadfast, so Doubt and Fear, so he's really resistant to morale.
Wow, yes, it's both of them.
It's both of them. Though he doesn't have Precise like Kari, so he doesn't get to reroll any dice. And then he's also got an army ability here on the back.
Okay.
That's called Host of Crows. Each unit in your army is treated as having the available upgrades in the row of its costing table with the next highest cost.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ignore this if there are no higher cost rows in that unit's table.
Okay. Yep.
So it's not that they get those for free, but they can take them.
Right. So he is a guy who makes all of his army. Basically, you can purchase upgrades for it at a level that's higher than you should be able to.
Right. So we haven't really showed it off, but just to really
show off one.
Yeah. So you can see here on the reanimates, for instance, these are the different trays. So you can have up 2, 4, 6, 9, or 12, and that shows the formation they have to be in there. So they come with 4. That's this one right here. That's their cost if you're buying an army.
Yep.
and then these symbols correspond to the actual unit upgrades they can take.
That you can purchase them.
Like a hornblower or a standard bearer, or these are a champion, which can include him. So even at your base of 4 with this box, because they count as actually being able to take the upgrades at 6, you could have him going into that unit.
Yep.
And then you've got other abilities.
So basically, if he's in the army, everyone. So when you have a unit with 4 trays, they can purchase the upgrades of the 6 tray level. So they can purchase 1 tier higher than they should be able to. Which is very cool.
It's really cool, and I actually really like how they've done the special rules on these guys, because both of their special rules, and I assume it's going to continue in a trend, affect how you build your army. Not necessarily give you extra abilities on the tabletop, but they let you change how you're going to build your army, and so each guy is going to have an army that's built in a certain way that reflects his personality.
Yep.
Which I think is really cool.
And that is Ardus. We'll move him off to the side. And that is our overview and kind of review of all of the units of the Runewars Miniatures game box set. And thanks for watching, guys. Larry and Stable Abe.
See you guys later.
Talk to you guys later.